Welcome back to this episode of God Wants You Married. We have been talking about the challenges of finding someone to get married to, the advantages and disadvantages of a marriage, and we would continue speaking about the disadvantages of getting married.
Yeah.
Now, the thing, Ebony, is that a lot of people walk into marriage with some interesting expectations. Okay. They expect marriage to make them happy, make them more fulfilled, improve their self-esteem, make them more of who they are.
Right.
And marriage wasn't really designed for some of these. We recognize that if you're a miserable person and you get married, you're going to be just a miserable married person and make someone else's life much, much miserable. So marriage isn't really designed. You find happiness in marriage, but I want to say this, that it cannot be the goal. Okay. It's you don't get married to be happy, but as you interact with this person, that happiness is a byproduct. Okay. The other thing that happens in marriage, why it's not a walk in the park. Everybody tend to think that when they get married, everything is just going to flow. Right. And the person that they love so much will be that person that will take them off into the sunset, and they don't have to put any work into it. But what they don't realize that marriage has what we call phases or cycles. Right. There is the romantic cycle, and then there's a challenging cycle, and then you can go through conflict cycles, and then you could become intimate. And sometimes when that feeling of romance wears off, people think that they have lost, and they get disappointed. They think that the marriage is over, and they get into conflict. And some people head into marriage too quickly, either too quickly in the relationship or when they're too young, and that creates a lot of problem.
So is that one of the disadvantages that we're looking at? Because
yes.
I think people are trying to hear the disadvantages.
Yes.
So is that a disadvantage? Doing it too quickly.
Too quickly, you run into problems. If you meet someone, I don't know if it was last year or this year, one of those celebrities got married to someone within a very short period of time, and in a very short period of time got divorced. Was it Kim Kardashian?
Yes.
Yes, correct. That's the headline. So you need to take time to know the person. So that is maybe it's not a disadvantage of marriage, but if you do that, you're setting the marriage up for failure. It doesn't have to fail, but you're setting the marriage up for failure.
Can we clarify the disadvantages again? Because one of the disadvantages I think you were alluding to at the beginning was that whole thing about expectation.
Yes.
The expectation of being happy, the artificial behaviours that you're expecting from a marriage.
Unrealistic expectations.
Right.
So, unrealistic expectations. When you get into the marriage, you realize that what you're looking for, what you're hoping for from the marriage isn't what is forthcoming. And that can be a huge disadvantage.
Right.
And secondly, you get into a marriage with someone and find out that this is not the person you thought they were.
Right.
And that again is a disadvantage of marriage. Marriage also needs a lot of time.
Okay.
It needs a lot of energy and attention. And if you're in a marriage and you don't have the time, like for example, if you're very busy working, you could find yourself torn between, family time and your work or profession. And that could have a knock-on impact on the marriage. So those are some of what I would call the disadvantage of marriage, because with marriage, you're accountable to someone. When you're single, you're not accountable to anybody. You could get up when you want, how you want, where you want, and you fly all over the world. That's not so with marriage. You are accountable to someone. Sometimes children are involved. I'll give you a classic example. My friend, about my age group, in his second marriage, he decided that he wanted to go back to school. He got a young wife, and he had 3 children. 3 children, all under the age of 7.
Oh wow, they're very young.
Very young.
Yeah.
This is his second family. Yeah.
Right.
And he decided that he's going back to school to study.
Okay.
Yeah. Now that has created a strain on the relationship.
Yeah.
Now and that's what I call, very unfortunate, because the pressure on the marriage, because he's now changing career. He has to, and studying is not no mean feat, because you have to have time, dedication to study and pass your exams. It's a very challenging thing. And more so, you need to work because you have to support your family. Now, can you imagine his wife, who has to deal with 3 young children? Sorry, he's not available as she would like to support her, both financially and practically. So the marriage is actually on the rocks at this point in time. So that's another disadvantage or a challenge of marriage.
Well, listen to what you said. And as a single woman, I'm just thinking, why? Why would I do that?
No, but we went through some of the advantages already.
Oh, I love the advantages. I love the advantages, and there's no problem with the advantages. But when you look at the disadvantages, right, you look at the fact that if you're a single woman, you don't have to have all this extra work. Okay, you don't have to think about a partner. You could be earning enough money to look after yourself.
Cook, wash, and clean.
Exactly.
Not to mention the emotions, handling this grubby person, and you wake up in the morning and but let me not get too much on the negative. I don't want to turn people off. Marriage is good.
But let's keep it real. Let's keep it real. There are advantages, but the disadvantages for some people may outweigh the advantages.
And that's why some people decide that
they won't.
So in conclusion, you need to be mentally prepared for marriage. If you're looking for someone that you can get married to, you need to be mentally prepared. Here are a couple of pointers that you need to be aware of. First of all, you need to be aware of that God wants you married, and He has the capability and the resources to find someone for you and bring that person into your life. Secondly, you need to be aware that you are already equipped for marriage. You have the ability, the capability, and the skills that are necessary to contribute to someone else's life. In future episodes, we'll be looking at how do you actually pray so that your prayers are successful in getting someone into your life. And finally, how do you pursue marriage? And should you pursue marriage, especially if you are a female, if you are a young woman or a woman? So be with us in the future episodes of God Wants You Married.